What happens when I say to you, goal setting? Does your heart sink? Do you get into a sweat? Are you worried about what you've got to do next? Because you have it all linked to your teacher identity and professional development. And in teaching and education, we are so obsessed about goal setting and next target, next target, next target. And because we're obsessed about it in education, at times it becomes a negative concept. So then we talk about goal setting, we forget about the positive elements of goal setting and how that can come into our own lives. Hi, I'm Rachel Hardman, and this is Passionate About Music Education. And this channel is to help teachers, musicians, music educators cope with the challenges of being in modern education and also look at good ways of keeping healthy and not getting stressed and burnt out, which is so easy to do because of the fast pace that we are working in the modern education system. So goal setting, as I said at the start, is something that can actually create a bit of fear and anxiety and pressure, because when we are observed, particularly in those first few years of teaching, it's always about how we need to improve, what we're not doing well, why we're not good enough, and what we need to do well. And although, of course, we need to be given guidance and advice on what to improve in terms of our practice, sometimes this goal setting can be a negative experience for many and creates an awful lot of teacher stress. You only need to be in staff room, hearing staff talking about forthcoming observations, and you can hear that teacher stress. So how do we manage goal setting in a positive way? How do we use it within education and in our personal life to keep growing, to keep motivated? And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. So I do hope you stay to the end, because I'm going to share some really good practice. In terms of goal setting within your school and your teaching practice, really think about setting goals that are linked to what you want to achieve within the school year. You want to produce a better concert, or you want to have your band to grow bigger, or you want to improve your GCSE exam results by 5%, or you want to create more resources. Try to link those goals to what you actually want to do that will best serve you and the students you teach, that will move your department, your classroom, your students, your program forward. It's all good and well. I know when I say this, you're going to go, yeah, but Rach, we've got to set a literacy goal, or we've got to set a ICT goal. And I know that at times we can't always be focused on our department, but the more you can bring those goals into something that you were already going to do, the less stressful it is, because it's part of the identity you want for your program. It's where you want it to go. Once I changed my mindset on goal setting within the department many years ago, I went, well, actually, what is it that I want to achieve with my students this year? What do I want them to be good at? What do I want my team to be able to do? Where are we going with our program? Do we want to be recruiting more students into IB? How do we do that? Then it was much easier to write goals, particularly that professional development meeting that you have maybe annually. It depends on how your school is run. But what I was really, really bad at was doing goals for myself, because when you're teaching, you're very busy during term time, and you go, I don't have time to do other things, and my goals are going to happen in the holidays. And of course, you get to the holidays or the long weekends, and you're too exhausted because you haven't unpicked the stress, you haven't done self-care, you haven't got healthy stress management skills. And I didn't have healthy stress management skills to unpick the stress. So there were times when I was out and really enjoying teaching and everything was going really well, and then other times when I was just really struggling with the burnout. I think at different stages of your life, you will have different types of goals. So when you come out of university, of course, it's to find a job, to prove yourself, to grow in your profession. It might be to then have a relationship, to buy a house, to travel, to have a family. And there are goals going on in your life. And then as you creep into middle age, which is where I'm at the moment, some of those goals disappear, because you've achieved those original goals. You know, you have your lovely house and you have your family, or you've traveled, or you've worked internationally. You've bought that lovely piano that you always dreamed of. You've been on these amazing adventures in the summer holidays. And it's really important that we keep goal setting, we keep planning for the future and not stop. This is why so many people get to middle age and find themselves in a crisis of identity, a depression, a midlife crisis, because they suddenly have got to a point where they go, I'm not really sure what I'm doing next, I don't know what it is. And without goals, personal goals, it's easy to slip into depression because every day feels the same. You find a lot of middle-aged adults start to feel the stress when their children start to go off to university because they get this empty nest syndrome, and they go, well, what am I going to do with the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life? And this is a really serious issue that people face in middle life, and it's part of that is linked with your identity and what goals you're working to, and it's easy to lose sight of that. So how do we switch that round? How do we use goals, not just in our school life, but also in our personal life, to avoid that stress, that burnout, that depression, that crisis of identity that, can creep up to us as we get into middle age? As musicians, we tend to find that our hobby is our job, and that can sometimes be very blurred. So we're practicing and we love playing music and we're practicing our instrument, but generally you'll find that you're practicing for the job, to accompany a student, to play for the choir. You'll be looking at scores and listening to music for what you're going to do next with the band. And although you've enjoyed the process, the music making stops becoming a hobby and it's all intertwined and you don't get a break from it. I know that I've been to the theatre and I've sat there and gone, wow, that's a really cool lighting effect. I love that. Oh, I could use that for my next show. And I'm still thinking about music education and teaching, and it's really hard to stop that, and it's really easy to do that. And I know our colleagues in other subject areas face the same challenge. Our colleagues in the English department who love reading, but they find that they're often reading text to analyse it so they can teach it in the classroom. They're still connected with work. It stops becoming a goal for personal growth and personal development because it's so tied up in our identity as a teacher, as a musician, as an educator. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's easy to get into and then suddenly realise that you don't have those hobbies, you don't have goals, and it's easy to not be able to separate the two. So what goals have you got? What are you going to learn or do for yourself over the next 6 months? And I think being locked down, we've all really had to reflect on that. What hobbies? You've seen people taking up sewing and mask making and going in their garden and growing vegetables and painting and redecorating their house. And when you hear what they're talking about, there's so much joy, there's so much happiness because their mind is back being developed, and our mind likes to grow. It needs to keep learning new skills. And so you hear people going, I learned how to make clothes, I learned how to make masks, I started sewing, I did more cooking, I started doing more exercise, I got into yoga. And there's so much spirit in their character, personality, and you see the joy and that positive mindset because they're learning new skills for them, for their own personal growth. So I challenge you, when was the last time you played a piece of music for yourself? When was the last time you bought a new track of music that was for you, that wasn't something you were going to conduct or teach to students? When was the last time you read a book that wasn't just about education? When was the last time you just went to the theatre because you wanted to go and see a show and not because you were analysing it? Really think about goals. What is it that you would like to do over the next 3 months up to Christmas? What is it? Set yourself 3 or 4 different personal goals for personal growth, and you will find that because you're taking your mind into a new direction, you will be re-inspired. It will bring on that positive mindset. It will challenge the brain. It will give you something new to talk about, new to learn, new to share. And you will see yourself becoming this new identity. Somebody who can sew, somebody who's a great cook, somebody who's super fit. You start moving towards a new identity, a version, a happier version of yourself. And you can step away a little bit from that stress and depression. And this is really important, particularly as you come into midlife. I know people who are in crisis at the moment, and that's because they have stopped thinking about what they want, what their goals are, and they're so focused on working and they've got themselves burnt out and they've stopped doing all those positive things, whether it's running a triathlon or whether it's doing an Ironman or whatever it is that will reinvigorate you. They have stopped doing that, and then they slip into depression, and then there's a big crisis of identity. So really challenge you if you're starting to feel stressed and burnt out. It's easy to fix. It does take practice. It does take consistency. But sit down, write down 3 or 4 different goals that you want to achieve. For me, this year it was, I want to share my message about music education on a larger scale because I love it so much. I want to meet more musicians and talk about music and not talk about education, but talk about music. I want to make a YouTube channel, so I'm learning how to video and I'm learning how to talk to the camera. I'm learning how to run an Instagram page that I've never done before. None of these skills I'm doing for my job, for my career. Of course, they'll have a positive impact on my career, but I'm doing them for me. I'm learning more about psychology. I'm learning more about mindset and well-being. I've learned loads about midlife depression and midlife crisis, and that is a real thing and not just, the TV version of it. And I've been reinvigorated. I find myself much more passionate in all areas of my life because I've got new goals and new challenges. So I do challenge you to go out and try something new. If you want to know how to make cakes, you want to be a chef, you want to be super fit, this is the time to put yourself first. It's not selfish, it's self-care, it's personal growth. It will make you a happier version of yourself, and that impacts all areas of your life. Hope you found this video about goal setting helpful. Of course, remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Thank you to those who have. And if you write comments, I do always answer them and do like to hear your feedback so that it helps me make more videos specifically for you to help you be a happier, healthier version of yourself. I'm Rachel Hardman, and this is Passionate About Music Education. See you soon.